everybody, it's Pam with Jesus Junk Journals, and we're going to get started on the Salvation mini journal, and I'm going to explain the Salvation Folio today. So thought I'd get that over with because I think that might be the trickiest thing, maybe. So here we go. Hi everybody, this is Pam with Jesus Junk Journals, and we're going to start on the Salvation mini journal. And I'm going to start with the hardest, probably the hardest thing that I've got in the kit. And that is the Salvation Folio. And so here's what it looks like when you've got it made. Now here's the thing. I didn't include the flaps because my original idea for this was I was going to put a circle, one of these circle closures on this and bring a string up and wrap it around. But as I was designing it, I realized that I really needed to put words on here that tells the person what is going on. So I thought, well, I'll figure it out when I make it. So here I am. And so what I have decided, and I'm sure there's more ideas out there, you can do whatever you want, but I kind of went back to one from a previous journal of flaps. And so I just made 2 flaps out of some paper that I have. So I'm sure you guys have plenty of scrapbook paper out there. So what you need to do is you need to cut 2, if you want to do the flaps, you're going to need to cut 2 flaps that are 2.5 by 5 1/4. And I've written it down here. 2 pieces, 2.5 by 5 1/4. So that's what I'm going to do. And I went ahead and drew it out here so you wouldn't have to watch me measure it. And I'm going to cut one out and then just trace it over on this other thing. And I just have this scrap piece of paper. It has some orangey color to it. So I thought that would go with the coloring on those 5 flip-up pieces. So I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to use just a regular piece of scrapbook paper that I have, and just give me lines to cut another piece. You know, this paper, I have to say, this paper is pretty flimsy. That's not going to do. So I think what I'll do, I have got a bunch of hem paper. Ooh, that works out good. Okay, I'm going to just glue that. I'm just going to glue this to that to give it some heft so that it will stand up and not be so wimpy. I'm just using my Bare Glue, Barely Art Precision Craft Glue that I just started using. And when that glue dries, I'm sure that that will stiffen up and be more substantial. Now, let me say this. I'm just showing you one way to do flaps. Since if I was putting this in the kit, and honestly, in hindsight, I probably should have given you flaps. I apologize. If I had given you flaps in the kit, I probably would have drawn out tabs. So, actually, what I'll do, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to glue this onto this and leave room for a tab. There is no mystery about tabs. All it is just a little strip of paper over to the side. So I'll glue this over here. Well, probably 1/4 inch or so over. And then cut this out, and Distress ink will hide all the irregularities of pretty much all of them. Okay, so there you have a flap. So we'll fold that. And you can glue with a flap, but what I did a minute ago when I made this one, I'll show you both ways to do it. Let me get one of the pages. This is just one of the pages from the kit. I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to glue it. This will be my foundation. So what I did on this one is I took the flaps, cut 2 edges. So this will be like this. So this one and this one. And this one doesn't have a flap. Okay, so I'll show you. On this one, I'll do what I did on, I'll give you the 2 different ways. So what I did was I used washi tape. All you're going to do is use washi tape half on your flap and half on the page. And you always want to reinforce washi tape with glue. So I'm going to set that there. And I'm going to tear a piece of washi tape off. And then I'm going to tape it. Oops. Yeah, the glue makes it slide around. Okay, now it will take it a minute to dry. So until it dries, it's not very stable. But so let me just wait a minute. Let me let it dry. The other side. Did I get that? Okay. The other side, you just do it like any other flap. You just put glue on it, glue it to the edge. And you want it, it needs to be at the very edge of this because those tabs are pretty long. Looks like these tabs, these flaps might be just a little bit long. Okay, so give it just a second to dry. So there you have your flaps. Okay, so no big mystery about that. And they will close. So I need to move this over. I want it right on the edge. Okay. And then just take your scissors and trim the tape off if you use the tape technique. And the circles you'll want to cut. I used a 1-inch circle. I have a 1-inch punch, but it doesn't punch cardboard. So what I did is I punched brown paper, traced around it, and cut it with scissors. And I used some really thin cardboard because it it's just easier. I'm being kind of lazy. I cut 2 thicknesses of really thin cardboard and glued the brown paper on top of one of them. But I'll show you that when I come to it. So I'm gonna stop for just a second, and then I'll come back with these tabs. So you want to cut these out, and they're a Z-fold, and so I'm going to go get those and show those to you. I'm going to go through the steps of making this. So you'll cut out the 5 steps, and then you'll fold them in a Z shape. So what I mean by that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do this, and then I'll fast forward through. And since I don't have lines on the back, I'm going to fold this one too on this line. And if you have a score tool, or you know, a score pad or whatever, you can use that. So I'm going to use a folding bone to fold it. And then I'm going to fold this back. So what you end up with is what I called a Z-fold. And so it'll go like that. And then you're going to glue this, and there's your there's your tab. So that's what I meant by a Z-fold. So I'll go ahead and do those. Okay. All right, so we've got our 5 pieces. I'm going to use the Barely Art glue. I'm going to glue this top to the second panel. Okay. So then you take your piece that you glued your panels in, and these need to fit. So check this now, because you want to do this, you want to dry fit it before you glue it in, because if there's any tightness, you can always trim off the edges if you need to. And depending on how close in your flaps are, you need to make sure that you left room for these to shut. So I'm gonna line these up. Just make sure. And that folds. Whoops. That folds. Okay, so that will work. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these in. And just be careful when you glue them in. I put this one right at the top. Make sure you get it up against this fold pretty close so you know it'll shut. So go ahead and make sure it folds up over it. Oh, you know what I did not do? Oh my gosh. I am so sorry. Hopefully you haven't started yours yet. You need to ink these. So much easier to ink them if you have them out. So I'm just going to put this along here and just kind of try to brush some on, and same along this edge here. Okay. Back to gluing. Oh, and the other thing is, be sure you get them in the right order. Might be confusing if somebody gets them in the wrong order. And I didn't distress the flaps either, it looks like. I'm going to do that now. Okay, and it looks like I got my flap glued or taped a little crooked. And that's okay, because I can use this as a guide and trim it back. I'm just going to trim it to match this. And then take my corner punch again. You just take your corner cutter and round it off again. And should be all right then. Okay, so now we're ready to do the circles. Now you may have a punch that will punch 1-inch cardboard. I do not. So what I do, kind of a roundabout way to do this, I'm going to take brown paper, just some regular old brown paper, and punch a couple of these. And then what I do is I do 2 cardboard circles for each side, so 4 total. So I'm just going to cut, or I'm just going to trace these circles. And I got pencils all over that, but I'll just flip it over when I need to glue it. I just glue that over the top of them. Cut these out. This is thin enough cardboard that I can cut it out with a pair of scissors. So I used to cut it out with an x-acto knife out of thicker cardboard, but it's just easier for me to make. This is the easiest way, even though I have to cut 4 out. Okay, here's the other thing I do, and this is just just me. I cut a smaller oval, or it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but I cut a smaller piece. I just freehand it. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. But what this is a spacer in between the 2 circles. So it makes a little bit of room for the string to go in between the circles to wrap. So it won't show, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I take these brown circles and I glue and you want to get the edges really well. Glue them to a circle. And it's okay if there's a little bit of white showing here and there because we're going to use the ink, distress ink, to cover up. Here's the side that had the pencil marks. I hope this is not too convoluted for you guys. This is just kind of how I craft. I just kind of make do and use what I have and work it out. You're going to take, and you know, you could also just, I might just trim the white away just slightly. If it's a very big flash of white, I don't think it's going to matter. I'll trim this one down just a little bit. And yes, I do have the Tim Holtz scissors and another pair of scissors. And I still use these dollar a pair of scissors to cut with all the time. Okay, so I'm going to take this and put the spacer in the middle and then put the other circle. And then I'm going to take, I use this piece of foam that I got off of a package, and I use it for my awl when I do the book binding. Take your awl, and I just poke the center hole, and I just eyeball it. And it's kind of thick, so I just wiggle it until it goes through. Doesn't take much. And I'm just going to go ahead and work it through pretty well. Take that one out. Do the same thing with this one. And then you need 2 brads. Before I do this, I think I better ink this because I'm going to attach it to the page in just a second with the brad. And that will be almost impossible to ink it then at that point. I'm using these Tim Holtz. It says long fasteners, but they're brads. And there's different colors. So I'm thinking I'm just going to use probably the copper. So a couple of those. This. And decide which flap I want to go on top. I guess I'll do the pink. Figure out where you want this at. And then I'm going to make a little mark. And then I'm going to eyeball it. But you want to make sure where your circles are. Like, don't get it too close. Like, if you take this flap and eyeball it, it would be easy to get it too close over here. And then when you shut it, it'll hit here. So just make sure you've moved it over far enough to clear the flap on the other side. And put your brad through the 3 pieces. And you can use the awl if you want to poke the hole, but it's really not that hard to poke through. And put that in. And some people like to put a piece of washi tape over that. You can do that, or you could glue a piece of paper. I'm just going to leave mine. Then you take a piece of thread. You can use regular thread. It's best probably to use the waxed linen string that you bind with. And tie it around one of these circles. And that also helps space it out, so you'll be able to wrap your cord. And just trim off what's sticking out. And then you come over here and you just put some string here so you see how much you want. You go around it however many times you want. And then usually you go once around or twice. And then that's that. Cut that off and you're done. And there you go. Oop. All right. Well, I hope that wasn't too difficult to follow. And if you like the video, please click the like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I have one more person before I hit 300 on my subscribers. So maybe by this time I'll have hit 300, but if not, I'm going to have a drawing. So you might want to go ahead and subscribe. And I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.